The government is attempting to bring in digital ID for the whole population under the guise of seemingly wanting to track illegal migrants, although quite how that's supposed to do anything in that area, I'm unsure. But regardless of anything else, this digital ID system is the very definition, in my view, of a dystopian future. It's something we should avoid. We don't need it. We don't want it, more importantly. And on the back of that, we've had 3 million people sign an online petition, and we want this debated. And there was a committee which happened over the past couple of days, and I've got 2 people here, one from Reform, one ex-Reform. We've got Lee Anderson, first of all, who I'm not going to call 50p Lee, or is it 30p Lee, or however they call him. I think that's a derogatory way to speak about Lee Anderson. He's a good lad, in my opinion, and, he does right by his constituents in the country. And, of course, we've got Rupert Lowe, who is appearing in all of these committees at the minute, and he's smashing the government left, right and centre. So a couple of really good little speeches here within this committee, which I thought highlighted the full spectrum of the arguments against what Kier Starmer is attempting to do.
We had the ramping up of facial recognition. We've got 30 arrests a day for social media posts. We're getting rid of trial by jury in most cases. And we've also got children being radicalised in our schools by left-wing teachers. And now this government are trying to force digital ID onto us all. And the excuse that they're using, Sir Edward, is that it will stop illegal migrants from working. Now, if the Prime Minister was really serious about stopping illegal migrants from working, then he would detain and deport every single illegal migrant that crosses the English Channel, but of course he won't. This is a gimmick. It's a pathetic attempt by a weak Prime Minister who has lost total control. Over 5,000 of my constituents signed this petition, and they do not want this government poking their noses into their private lives. My constituents are not illegal migrants. They did not break into this country. They are decent, hard-working people whose fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers fought in 2 world wars to secure our freedoms. And every single working person in Ashfield is now going to be penalised because of the failures of this government. You don't need a digital ID to work in this country. You need a national insurance number backed up with a driving licence, a passport or some photo ID. And my message to the government, Sir Edward, is quite clear. You allow undocumented men into our country with no ID at all. You pick them up and place them in luxury hotels with no ID at all. You then give them a free asylum claim and free legal aid with no ID at all. Yet you are ordering my constituents in Ashfield to get digital ID, and then you have the cheek to call us fascists. That's what they do. So just leave my constituents alone and concentrate on clearing up the mess that you lot created.
Chairmanship, I can't tell you how uncomfortable I feel sitting this side of the chamber. But it is testament to the fact that this is an extremely passionate subject which does arguably need to be heard in the chamber. Digital ID is the biggest step towards a surveillance state this country has ever faced in my lifetime. If any government wants access to every detail of your life, they are the ones who should be feared. We live in a country where the state can't even run a basic IT system without losing data or leaking personal details. It won't last a week before a mountain of sensitive personal data is left at a bus stop in Kent again. I do not trust any government. I certainly do not trust this government. And let us remember, once government gets a new power, it never gives it back. It expands and evolves. Digital ID will not stop at proving who you are. It will creep into travel, banking, housing, benefits, even voting. Today it's voluntary. Tomorrow it will be required for security reasons. The day after that, you won't be able to access basic services without it. All for your own good, remember. Britain is supposed to be a country where the government serves the people, not the other way around. A country built on privacy, liberty and trust. British people just want the government to leave them alone and get out of their lives, to build a business, raise a family and live in peace. Digital ID treats every citizen as a suspect. It assumes that the state has the right to look over your shoulder. You defend it by severely limiting the power of the state, not radically expanding it. Abolishing jury trials, cancelling elections, implementing facial recognition, and now this. This incoming dystopian future must be resisted. I will be holding my own protest against this creeping move towards George Orwell's Animal Farm. I will simply not comply. I will not be downloading a digital ID. I urge other MPs to commit to do the same. The solution is obvious. I'll just have to reinvest in a Nokia. I preferred the simplicity of it anyway. The sound people of Great Yarmouth do not want digital ID.
So just to give you my thoughts on this, and of course Lee Anderson and Rupert Lowe were both correct in every one of those talking points, and by far and away the major issue with this isn't to do with privacy, isn't to do with, the technology or its safety or anything like that. It's that nobody wants this. The politicians appear not to want this. The people certainly don't want it. The government isn't ready to initiate any of this. It seems, for whatever reason it is, that this is all flowing from Kier Starmer. So it looks like our leader, who is amongst the most disliked Prime Minister of all time, it's coming up too soon, is the one that's trying to push this. And, you've got MPs from right the way across the full spectrum of the House who don't want this to happen. So the question then springs from this, why? Why do you want this to happen? When a government comes out and talks about modernising democracy, so that's a key word there, a dystopian word. It's almost akin to the doublespeak of 1984 that we've got going on here. But essentially, that word modernisation of our system to do with 21st century technology is essentially about control. Digital identity isn't a technological upgrade, it's actually an infrastructure upgrade for the state and the tax system. That's what it's about. It's about money, it's about free speech, and also this, government overreach is just something that comes along with both those things. And of course, once you build the system, let's say the system gets up and running, what happens from there? Well, you've got something called mission creep. It always starts off like this, the thin end of the wedge argument. First it comes along for banking, then you want to book your holiday, then you've got to book a hospital appointment, then it'll be company directors. Step by step by step, you reach a point where the freedom in our society becomes conditional upon you having access to a digital ID system, again, that nobody ever wanted. And it's not just about being identified either. So a lot of people do believe this is about being identified. That's not what it's about. It's about tracking. Tracking what you do, tracking what money you spend, tracking where you go, tracking what websites you're looking at, because what will happen within a very short space of time, when you go onto Google, you will be requested, if you're accessing a server or using the internet through any third-party company within the United Kingdom, it will require you to say who you are. So the anonymity is gone. So when you're looking at all your websites, that will be logged somewhere. And whatever websites you want to use, whether you're just going on to BBC, iPlayer, or whatever other nefarious activities you may get up to in your spare time, whatever they may be, the government will know. It will know how long you spent at the site, what you done, how much money you spent, and everything else. And of course, we've seen how this ends elsewhere. We've got India, who had the Aadhaar system, Australia's digital registry, EU digital wallets. All of these things are already expanding far beyond their original purpose. Just to look at the EU digital wallet, now the EU is using the wallet as a means, as a springboard to access all of the assets that somebody has on an individual basis. Now you're being asked to list those assets within the European Union. So this has gone already far beyond what these people said was going to happen anyway. And as Mr. Rupert Lowe said, do you trust this government? Well, I don't trust the government. I don't trust any government. I'm gathering you don't trust any government either, particularly after the performance after the last 10 and 20 years. So could you hand on heart say that you would quite like the government to have access to every aspect of your digital life, every aspect of banking, healthcare, DNA, medical records and all that, and you would believe on top of that the government is going to keep that safe? Is the government able to keep anything safe? You know the stories we've had about civil service jumping on the tube and then leaving a laptop with 150,000 people details on. This stuff happens all the time. And of course, when you've got a digital ID, it's a gateway service, which this gateway would take you to every aspect of your digital life. And are you really telling me, this is Mr. Starmer, of course, is Mr. Starmer really telling me that he's going to be able to care for that data and make sure that nobody accesses it? Well, it's not possible to do that. The only way you could do that is by using cryptocurrency, or a version of a crypto, which basically means that it's encrypted beyond all belief and so it would be unhackable. But those systems aren't ready yet. So in the interim period, all of our data would be unsecure, in my opinion. And to finish off, we've got a trust problem with our politicians. We know they love power. We know what they want. Governments want additional power, and freedom dies one step at a time. And the simple question is, what's the rush? Why is this being rushed through right at this moment? It wasn't in the manifesto that Labour had. It hasn't been mandated through a vote or anything else. This is a big deal for the people of this country. This is something that people have very, very strong views about, as has been evidenced by the millions of people that signed the petition wanting a debate about this. Nobody wants this. It hasn't been part of any manifesto, and the government does not have a mandate to put the people of this country onto a digital leash. There is no reason to rush this through until the technology is ready. Now, over the next 5 to 10 years, it could be argued that the technology will be there as to guarantee in 100 different universes that your data would be able to be kept secure, but the technology is not available yet. So given that the technology isn't available yet, given they won't be able to keep your data secure, given the fact that the MPs, everyone in Parliament and the whole country doesn't want this, the question is, why is this being pushed through right at this moment? I'll leave you to answer that yourself. But thanks very much for your time. I always appreciate it.